My name is Kristen Tedonio. I am the project lead for our funding opportunity announcement 1168, Advancing Solutions to Improve the Energy Efficiency of U.S. Commercial Buildings. Just want to give people a second here to take note of the information on this title slide and to talk a little bit about the format of this presentation. I'm going to be going through a number of slides that describe this funding opportunity announcement, including the content and logistics. And at the end, if we have time, we will take questions. So please do not raise your hand during the webinar. Rather, you can submit your questions via the questions function of GoToWebinar, and we will get to those at the end. If we do not get to your question, we will attempt to get to it in writing, and all questions will be recorded and posted on EERE Exchange. That's the system I'll talk about in a bit to submit your applications and questions, and everyone will be able to see the answers. All right. So this slide goes over a little bit about the anticipated schedule for this funding opportunity announcement. If you're on this webinar, you probably know that our funding opportunity has already been posted, and today is the funding opportunity webinar. If you have applied for a funding opportunity announcement in the past, please note that there are a few requirements that are different this year than in the past, so please tune in for this entire presentation. Some of the key dates to make note of here are the deadline for concept papers. Please note that is November 22nd, not the 17th, so you have a little bit more time. November 22nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The deadline for full applications is a little bit past that in January. And reviewer comments February 19th. We're going to be going over the schedule in detail throughout this presentation. All applicants are strongly encouraged to carefully read the funding opportunity announcement and adhere to the stated submission requirements. If you have a copy of the funding opportunity, I suggest that you follow along with it during this presentation. If not, please refer to it and actually read it after this announcement. It will really help you in crafting the best submission that you possibly can. If you have any questions or believe there's any inconsistencies, the correct address to submit your inquiries to is listed at the bottom bullet of this slide, CBI FOA, standing for Funding Opportunity Announcement 2015 at ee.doe.gov. All right, so today we're going to describe a little bit about the funding opportunity. We're going to talk about technical topic areas, areas that we're interested in submitting. We're seeing you submit proposals. We'll talk a little bit about award information, what that means, and also substantial involvement, what that means. We'll go over the cost-sharing requirements. Those do exist for this funding opportunity, as well as information about letters or concept papers, full applications, the merit review and selection process, and some very key registration requirements that I'm going to suggest that you follow up on today as soon as this webinar is over. So through this funding opportunity announcement, the Department of Energy is seeking to fund the scale-up of promising solutions to market barriers that can hinder the growth of energy efficiency in the commercial building sector. And when we talk about commercial buildings, we're inclusive of just about anything that is not a residential building. So that includes not only commercial office spaces or retail buildings, but it may include also, for instance, hospital facilities, public buildings, etc. So according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency, in 2013, up to 40% of U.S. energy was consumed by the building sector, and a lot of this, about 18 quadrillion BTUs, was attributable to commercial buildings. So we know that commercial buildings can be made much more efficient using a variety of cost-effective efficiency improvements, while also creating jobs and helping to stimulate the economy. But there's a lot of very well-documented barriers that exist. They may be informational barriers, can't get the good information, structural barriers, market barriers such as split incentives, where The incentives between an owner and a tenant is not aligned to invest in the property. High hurdle rates for adoption of energy efficiency. All of these things can impede the adoption of more efficient technologies and practices. So the mission of the U.S. Department of Energy's Building Technologies Office is to help meet our Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, that's EERE goals, and our administration targets to improve the efficiency of commercial and residential buildings. Our near-term goals, just to put this in context, are 20% savings by 2020 and 50% savings by 2030. So those are fairly ambitious goals. And the role of the Commercial Building Integration Program, which is sponsoring this funding opportunity, we play an important role in helping meet these goals. We're charged with increasing voluntary adoption of energy-efficient technologies and practices in commercial buildings. So we serve as kind of a critical link between our office's Emerging Technologies programs, which help to bring promising technologies to the market, and then our Codes and Standards programs, which help to make sure that products that are out there and are being used in our buildings are cost-effective and delivering the maximum efficiency for the U.S. economy. So in order to meet these goals, we've invested over the years in the development of resources, tools, and solutions that are designed to help overcome the aforementioned barriers and help commercial building owners save energy. Many of these resources are available online at the links below, buildingdata.energy.gov/CBRD, that stands for Commercial Building Resource Database, and on the commercial program website, that is commercialbuildings.energy.gov. So successful proposals will deploy one or more of these resources, tools, and solutions through either successful existing programs or innovative new programs to increase program impact and increase energy savings in commercial buildings. Coalitions of organizations are encouraged to apply together in order to leverage different market channels and also strategic relationships and to make a bigger overall impact. Successful applicants will succinctly summarize what barriers that their proposal is proposing to address and which solution or solutions they will use to overcome such barriers. DOE, just to put this out there and be perfectly clear, we're interested in proposals that will impact the most significant geographic or market sector portion possible. So we want this funding to impact the maximum number of buildings. So we've set a minimum threshold of 100 buildings. We're hoping that your proposals will increase energy efficiency in far more than that, but the minimum for this funding opportunity is 100 buildings. Proposals should develop a program over the period of the cooperative agreement that can be self-sustaining without DOE funding after the funding period ends. That's very important to us. We want to make sure that we're helping you set up something that can be sustained over time. And all proposals must have the potential to help EERE meet its mission and to meet the DOE strategic goals to reduce building energy consumption. We want you to very clearly describe, quantify, and justify all benefits. I'm going to give you a moment to review the topic areas of interest, and we're going to pause here a moment to make sure that the webinar slides are advancing. Evan, if you are hearing me right now, please be sure that all of the viewers can currently see the topic areas of interest slide. Please bear with us for one moment while we fix this technical glitch.
Hi, Kristen. This is Evan. The slides have been advancing, so I think we should be good.
Okay. If anyone else is having the same issue of not having the slides advance, please send a message to the organizer, and we will endeavor to get you a set of those slides after the webinar. But for the sake of continuing progress, I'm going to continue the presentation. So there are 9 specific topic areas of interest that are listed in our funding opportunity announcement. and I'm going to go over each of these briefly here to help you familiarize yourself a little bit more with what they were developed to address and where you can find those resources now, so you can consider whether to integrate them into your proposal. The first item listed is best practices that have been developed under the Better Buildings Challenge and by Better Buildings Challenge partners. The Better Buildings Challenge exists to help organizations commit and highlight their commitment to achieve 20% energy savings in their building portfolios over 10 years. And through the Better Buildings Challenge, we ask these organizations to share with us very transparent, very informative models, replicable models, that others can replicate to help them and their organizations achieve similar success. You can find a full list of these implementation models at the website listed below, or you can Google search Implementation Model Better Buildings Challenge, and it should bring you to the correct page. In addition, Better Buildings Challenge partners develop showcase projects that demonstrate how they achieved 20% or more savings in a particular facility or building. Those, if you're interested in integrating into your proposal, can be found on the Better Buildings Challenge website by clicking on Showcase Projects. Topic area number 2 was our Building Energy Asset Score. The U.S. Department of Energy's Building Energy Asset Score is a national standard for evaluating the physical and structural energy efficiency of commercial and multifamily residential buildings. The asset score generates a consumer-friendly 1 to 10 point energy efficiency score that enables comparison amongst buildings and provides users with recommendations to invest in building efficiency improvements. And it is 100% free to use. The asset score is a complement to the EPA Portfolio Manager benchmarking tool that provides a 1 to 100 score. It complements it by evaluating only the physical structure and major energy-related systems and equipment of a building, which remain constant regardless of changes in building's occupancy and operations. The tool can be used by building owners, facility managers, energy service providers, architects, state and local governments, and other organizations. It is available for use today, and DOE will soon be taking use commitments for organizations that publicly announce their intention to utilize the asset score. So you can read more about it at the website listed below. The Standard Energy Efficiency Database Platform, the SEED platform, was developed to help people solve the problem of what to do with building energy data that had been given to them or reported to them. So it is an open source software application that includes a database and a user interface, as well as a plugin and API architecture, so you or your contractors can develop apps on top of it. Users can combine data from multiple sources about a portfolio of buildings, clean and validate it, and share the information with others. Initially, it was designed to help cities really manage building transparency programs, but has many other potential uses by public entities, utilities, etc. So for more information, you can see buildings.energy.gov/SEED platform. Please bear with us for 1 moment. Continuing on, the Buildings Performance Database. The Buildings Performance Database, or BPD, enables users to statistically analyze trends in the energy performance and physical and operational characteristics of real commercial and residential buildings. This is an anonymized data set that currently includes 750,000 real buildings and growing. It also has an API interface, so software developers can conduct analysis using the data that is stored within the Buildings Performance Database. You can learn more about it at buildings.energy.gov/BPD. It is currently offline for a major redesign, but will be launching again in January. More information will be posted on the website this week. The Building Energy Data Exchange Specification. Many of you have probably run into the issue before that you might be talking about one particular building energy efficiency issue and another person is using the same words to talk about an entirely different thing. Well, the Building Energy Data Exchange specification seeks to help solve these problems. It's a data dictionary, if you will, that has specific definitions around different energy efficiency terms. Terms from the BEAD dictionary can be implemented if you're designing schemas, software tools, data collection protocols, etc., to help make sure that when two people are talking about the same energy efficiency topic, that those data sets can actually match up and compare with each other. So you're really talking about the same thing. You can check out more at buildings.energy.gov/BEDES, and also BEDES.lbl.gov. And please note that we are going to ask that applicants utilize the BEAD data dictionary in their, well, not in their applications, but in their projects. So successful projects will be asked to try and conform to the BEAD definitions where possible. Better Buildings Workforce and Workforce Guidelines. The Better Buildings Workforce Guidelines are an initiative of the Department of Energy and the National Institute of Building Sciences to engage industry stakeholders to develop voluntary national guidelines for commercial building workforce training and certification programs. The current guidelines exist for the following key energy-related jobs: building energy auditors, building commissioning professionals, building operations professionals, energy managers. So the guidelines can be used by voluntary industry training and certification providers to either upgrade or modify their existing programs or to build new ones. In addition, in changing gears, DOE has also invested in some training resources for energy performance-based acquisition for commercial buildings, basically meaning how do we put energy performance into the process of bidding out a contract, a design bid contract. DOE has a lot of successful experience doing this via our national laboratory. We got quite a bit of attention in years back for our National Renewable Energy Labs research support facility. So this training basically documents how we went about that system, how we managed to get a net zero LEED Platinum facility for essentially no additional cost compared to typical buildings, and helps other people to follow or utilize that process where it makes sense for them. So more information is available at the website listed here. Guidance tools for deeper energy savings. The Department of Energy has provided resources to ASHRAE and to our technical performers to develop guides for new construction and for major retrofit and renovation. The new construction guides, they actually can be used for major renovation in some cases as well, are called the Advanced Energy Design Guides. They're available on the ASHRAE website listed below. The most latest iteration of these AEDGs provide guidance to help architects, engineers, building owners achieve 50% energy savings over ASHRAE 2004. They present, different recommendations for buildings constructed in different climate zones, and really provide a very comprehensive set of recommendations and a pathway for successful design in a variety of building types. We also have a variety of advanced energy retrofit guides that are available on the DOE website. These really focus more exclusively on retrofits, so not new construction. But one thing that I think is really interesting about these guides is that they are very tailored to specific, to different building types in different climate regions. And they also provide options. So it doesn't say, prescriptively you must do this entire suite of packages, but it says if you're going for this level of savings, you may want to consider this suite of measures, and they may help you save X amount of dollars. So those are very worth checking out as well if you have not yet seen or heard of them. Moving along, an additional topic or area of interest is the technology and systems specifications that we have developed through our Better Buildings Alliance program. Through this program, commercial industry members share examples of specifications that they have used to procure high-efficiency products, and we basically create a template that others can use to customize and include in one of their own RFPs or RFQs to try and procure the same high-efficiency types of units. This is a technology-neutral specification platform, so it doesn't say go out and buy X product, but it lists a variety of performance standards for a range of different technologies, including commercial lighting systems, both interior and exterior, light commercial HVAC, even technologies and equipment for labs and special spaces. So please do check out the technology and system specifications as well. Two programs that the Department of Energy has invested in over the years include the Advanced RTU Campaign and the Low-Cost Wireless Sub-Meter Challenge. The Wireless Sub-Meter Challenge was led by a coalition, including the DOE's Better Buildings Alliance Technology Solutions team. It issued a challenge to industry in 2013 to try and solve the problem that many commercial building owners face, including federal government employees, and that is that many wireless sub-meters that are high functioning are also very high cost. So the challenge was to produce a wireless sub-meter for $100 or less per metered point. DOE received over 20 companies interested in accepting the challenge, and at least one product is expected to proceed to the next phase of testing by early 2015. So if you're interested in projects that incorporate the Wireless Meter Challenge, you can find out more at the link provided here. The Advanced Rooftop Unit Campaign, or ARC, encourages commercial buildings owners and operators to replace or retrofit their older RTUs with more efficient units or controls. It is a collaboration between ASHRAE, RELA, and the Department of Energy, that is Retail Industry Leaders Association, providing technical support to campaign participants through the Better Buildings Alliance and Federal Energy Management Program. So interested parties can join as participants or supporters or organizers. Thus far in the campaign, we've had participants commit to over 31,000 RTU replacements or retrofits, and we estimate that this has the potential to save over $30 million annually. So you can check out more at advancedrtu.org. In addition, some of the resources available for you to consider in your proposals include the completed technology demonstration resources. So being a technology program, our program invests heavily in technology demonstrations, and we make all of those technology demonstration reports available on our website. And we also collaborate with our sister programs in government, including the Green Proving Ground and the Department of Defense's ESTCP. You can find all of those technology demonstration reports online, and some example savings that we have demonstrated in real buildings from these demonstrations include 50 to 80% savings in refrigeration heat loads from display door retrofits, controls on power strips that produced over 25% electricity savings at workstations, and remote building analytics that identified, in some cases, up to 30% more energy conservation measures at a lower cost than on-site assessments in our demonstration. So please take a look at some of these resources as well if you're considering a technology-focused proposal. Moving away from the technology side, sometimes barriers are not necessarily technological, but they can exist just in the fundamental way that our commercial buildings are owned and occupied. Many buildings in this country are leased spaces, and in leased spaces, the owner may not always have the incentive to invest in expensive energy efficiency retrofits. In some cases, tenants may not have because the tenants pay the bills, and in some cases, vice versa, the tenant may not have the incentive to save energy, say, if the owner is paying the bills. So much of this split incentive, so-called split incentive, is addressed through some of the green leasing work that DOE has sponsored. For those who are interested in learning a little bit more about split incentives and green leasing, I encourage you to check out the following resources listed: greenleafleaders.com, a recognition program that seeks to incentivize people to try and align the energy incentives between landlord and tenants, and greenleaflibrary.com, a comprehensive suite of resources that are available to help people negotiate or enter into energy-aligned leasing practices. I'm getting toward the end here, bear with me. Energy-saving ideas and strategies for new construction and retrofits. There are also a couple of helpful resources here for new construction projects that DOE is invested in, including cost control strategies for zero-energy buildings and how to use energy performance-based design bid procurement processes. So please check out these websites if you're interested in those particular topics. All right, moving back into the non-topical area of this funding opportunity announcement. So earlier I encouraged you to read the full funding opportunity announcement thoroughly. That will help you not be a non-responsive application, and you do not want to be considered non-responsive. The following types of applications will be deemed non-responsive and will not be reviewed or considered for an award. Any application that falls outside the technical parameters specified in this FOA, including proposals that don't meet that 100 building threshold, proposals that do not explain or highlight which DOE tool, resource, or solution, such as the ones we just went over, they intend to help utilize in their energy-saving projects. Proposals that do not include a 50% cost share, we will go over cost share in more detail momentarily, and proposals that focus exclusively on technology development. This is not a technology or R&D funding opportunity. And then proposals that lack quantifiable impact metrics. If there is no way at the end of this project period we're going to be able to quantify how much energy you help to save or a metric of an ulterior type, then that is not going to bode well. Applications for proposed technologies that are not based on sound scientific principles will not be funded. If you don't submit something that violates the laws of thermodynamics, not going to get considered. DOE will also not be funding building equipment for demonstration or retrofits through this FOA. So this is not the funding opportunity to do a retrofit on your building that you've been waiting to do. DOE is also not going to be funding incentives or rebates that are not sustainable after the award period. So this is not, a cash for clunkers for appliances program. We're not looking to start a rebate program, at least not one that is going to run out when the grant or the cooperative agreement period ends. The total amount that can be awarded through this funding opportunity is up to $9 million. This is, of course, subject to Congress appropriating funds. The average award we anticipate making may range from $500,000 to $1 million. The type of funding agreement we are looking to fund is a cooperative agreement. This is different than just a straight-up grant, and we'll talk a little bit more about what cooperative agreements mean in a moment. The period of performance is up to 3 years, and we expect that all proposals will meet at least a 50% cost share requirement for total project costs. The Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy has substantial involvement in work performed under the awards that are made following this funding opportunity. We do not limit our involvement to the administrative requirements of the award. Instead, because this is a cooperative agreement, we anticipate having substantial involvement in the direction and redirection of technical aspects of the project as a whole. Some examples of substantial involvement are, for example, sharing responsibility with the recipient for the management, control, direction, and performance of the project, intervening in the conduct of performance of work under this award for programmatic reasons. This may mean an interruption or modification. ERE may also redirect or discontinue funding of the project based on the outcome of our evaluation of the project at go or no-go decision points in the project. So those are built in to kind of measure and assess performance over the course of the project period. At the same time, ERE participates in major project decision-making processes. So there will be a negotiation period where If you're selected, we'll go over that. Applicants in this funding opportunity are asked to contribute a minimum of 50% of the total project cost for demonstration projects. Contributions can be various. You don't have to just bring cash, but they must be specified in the project budget. So when you submit a project budget, make sure that you account for that 50% cost share. They also must be verifiable from your records. If you look at your records and there's no way to verify that cost share, that's not going to be a very good thing. And then finally, and very importantly, contributions must be necessary and reasonable for proper and efficient accomplishment of the project. Every cost share contribution is reviewed and approved in advance by the contracting officer. So allowable forms of cost share. Cost share can be either cash or in-kind contributions. For example, in-kind contributions can include personnel costs, indirect costs, F&A costs, facilities and administrative, the rental value of buildings or equipment that you need for the project, and also the value of a service or other resource or third-party in-kind contribution. So it's fairly broad. We want you to be able to meet the 50% cost share requirements. So please read your funding opportunity announcement document thoroughly. It includes all and a much larger description of what is an allowable cost share. Cash contributions may also be provided by the prime recipient, subrecipients, or a third party. Some of the rules and regulations around cost share are available in the following applicable federal cost principles. You'll see that they're a little bit different depending on the kind of organization you are. So please take a moment to jot down the numbers that you see here. They're also listed in the funding opportunity announcement document, but this will describe precisely how funding cost share works. I will note here that some of you who are on the webinar may have heard that as of essentially December 26th this year, these references are going to be updated. At that time, we will provide additional information. Unallowable cost share. The prime recipient may not use any of the following to meet its cost share requirements: revenues or royalties from the prospective operation of an activity beyond the project period. So if it's not in the project period, don't count it. Proceeds from the prospective sale of an asset or an activity. Federal funding. If you're getting federal funding for another project, you cannot use that federal funding to meet your federal cost share requirement. Similarly, you can't use federal property to meet that cost share. Expenditures reimbursed under a separate federal technology office. Same idea. Independent research and development funds, and the same cash or in-kind contributions for more than one project or program, so no double dipping. That is not an exhaustive list, but that will give you an indication of the kinds of things we don't want to see in cost share. All right, cost share payment. Recipients must provide documentation incrementally over the life of the award. That means that cumulative cost share percentage has to be provided on each invoice and must reflect at a minimum the cost sharing percentage negotiated. So if we negotiate a 50%, it's got to show that on each invoice. In limited circumstances, and where it's in the government's interest, the contracting officer may approve a request by the prime recipient to meet that cost share requirement on a less frequent basis, such as monthly or quarterly. So that's something we can come to at the time if it comes to that. So what you see here, again, is the schedule. We're going to go over this a little bit more in detail. The blue boxes are the expected time frame for the Department of Energy to insert in the process and conduct reviews. The gray boxes is what you need to pay attention to. It is the applicant deadlines. So the first you see there is the concept paper deadline, and that is going to be November 22nd, 2014 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So concept papers. Applicants must submit a concept paper, and each concept paper must be limited to a single project. Unrelated concepts and technologies should not be consolidated into a single concept paper. So if you have 5 ideas, don't cram them all into one application. Focus on your best. The concept paper must adhere to the concept paper requirements, and those are described in detail in your FOA document in Section 4, Application and Submission Information, Part C. The project description, concept papers are brief. The project description is limited to 2 pages. We also allow you up to 3 pages to include charts, graphs, supplemental information. Please adhere to these because anything beyond that will not be reviewed. Concept papers must be submitted by November 22nd, 5 p.m. Eastern Time through EERE's Exchange program. The link is right there. You're going to want to get registered in that. We'll go over that a little bit later. In accordance with these instructions, I strongly recommend that you submit your concept paper earlier. Concept papers, if they're all submitted at the same time, have been known to slow down the system. And if you submit after 5 p.m., even if it's because the system is going slowly, you'll not be considered. So please try and get your concept paper in, if you can, 48 hours in advance to make sure you don't run into any issues with the system. Under normal conditions, you should allow at least an hour to submit the concept paper. So we'll make an independent assessment of each concept paper. We're going to encourage a subset of applicants to submit full applications. Other applicants will be discouraged from submitting a full application. That does not mean you can't submit one. It just means that based on our preliminary review, we think it would be discouraged. In order to provide applicants with feedback, we may include general comments provided from reviewers on an applicant's concept paper in the encourage-discourage notification. All right, so what criteria do we use to evaluate these concept papers? 2, the impact of the proposed solution, that counts for 50%, and the overall merit of the solution, that also counts for 50%. I'll give you a moment there to read a little bit more about those criterion. All right. This is described at length in the funding opportunity document as well. So if you get to the point where you are ready to submit a full application, that consists of several parts. The first is the key technical submission. That's the technical volume. You'll also have to submit an SF 424 and 424A. Those deal with the official application for federal assistance and your budget. We'll also want a summary slide. This may be publicly released. And administrative documents that are required, such as, for instance, your disclosure of lobbying activities. The technical volume. The key technical components of a full application is the technical volume. This helps the applicants frame the technical information in the application, and it also provides information regarding what the project is, how the tasks will be accomplished, and the timeline. The technical volume is comprised of a cover page, 1 page, project overview, technical description, and also description of the work plan. Cover page, basic project information, limited to 1 page, we recommend. The project overview, we recommend you also limit to 1 page, and that provides information on project background, goals, and the impact of EERE funding, DOE funding. The technical description, innovation, and impact section, the description, innovation, and impact, we recommend that you provide about 3 pages for that. That's where you'll talk about relevant project outcomes, feasibility, and impacts. The work plan is really the meat of the document. We recommend that you allocate about 6 pages to that. It would constitute, detailed milestones in the project schedule, and if selected for award negotiations, it's like the starting point where DOE would negotiate the statement of project objectives with you. Finally, you're allowed to submit technical qualifications and resources, and a couple pages that are specific to this FOA's requirements. And those are covered in detail in the funding opportunity document that you're going to be reading. Eligibility requirements. So all applications must submit a full application by January 20th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Similar to Exchange, I recommend that you submit early if at all possible. Full applications will be eligible for review if they are an eligible entity, so if you're listed as being eligible in the FOA, if you've submitted your concept paper, if you have met the cross-share requirement, if it is compliant with some of the administrative requirements listed in our funding document, and if it's responsive to everything that we asked you to address specifically in the application. Applicants should only have submitted one concept paper and one full application, and you should meet all of those eligibility requirements once again. So to be specific about who is eligible to apply, anyone who is an individual, a domestic entity, foreign entities, provided that they are incorporated under the laws of the United States and its territories, incorporated or unincorporated consortia are eligible to apply. For more detail, you can scan to Section 3A of the Funding Opportunity document. Nonprofit organizations are also eligible to apply, of course, but you cannot apply if you actively engage in lobbying activities. You can read more in the FOA document about those restrictions. Federally funded research and development centers and government-owned, government-operated laboratories are not eligible to apply for funding as a prime recipient, but they may receive funding as a subrecipient. Just reiterating again that multiple applications are not allowed, we want you to focus on your best concept paper and full application. If you submit more than one concept paper or full application, we're only going to consider the one you submitted last, the last timely submission for evaluation. All right, the merit review and selection process for full applications. This consists of multiple phases that each include an initial eligibility review and then a thorough technical review. The reviews are conducted by reviewers that are experts in the subject matter listed in the funding opportunity announcement. And ultimately, the selection official at DOE considers the recommendations of the reviewers along with other considerations such as program policy factors to make the final decision. So it's not completely up to the review panel. The review panel provides recommendations and the selection official at DOE makes the final decisions. I'm going to go over briefly the criteria that the technical merit review is going to be looking at. The first is the overall program strategy merit and innovation weight. The reasonableness, completeness, and feasibility of the approach, the degree to which it contains clear goals and metrics with sufficient detail for people to actually understand and consider it, the degree to which application has correctly characterized the efficiency challenges or barriers faced by the market sectors that you're targeting in your project, as well as discussion and demonstration of the key risk areas involved in the proposed work. So I'm going to let you read the following. These are also listed in the funding opportunity announcement document. That's criterion 1, overall program strategy merit and innovation. Criterion 2 is potential impact. This is weighted at about 30%. The degree to which success in the selected program areas will significantly increase energy efficiency in the target market, the percentage of market segment that's actually reached by the proposed program, the degree to which the proposal identifies objectives and metrics that are identified in the funding opportunity document and demonstrates a compelling impact, as well as the impact of overcoming commercial energy efficiency barriers, and the potential for replication in other markets. And criterion number 3, team capacities, capabilities, and resources. So with this criteria, we're really taking a look at who's going to be doing the work, how well suited they are to be doing that work, and their likelihood of being successful. If you are reviewed as a full applicant, may have the opportunity to reply to reviewer comments. Applicants are not required to submit a reply to reviewer comments. It's optional, but I recommend to be considered by ERE, a reply must be submitted by February 19th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time and submitted through ERE Exchange. And you're limited to 2 pages of text or an optional 1 page of charts and graphs. You'll typically get about 3 days to turn around these responses. So please consider that as you're looking at your schedules. Selection factors. So as mentioned before, the selection official at DOE may consider the merit review recommendation, program policy factors, and the amount of funds available in arriving at selections for this funding opportunity. What are some of those program policy factors? Well, they include the degree to which the proposed project, including proposed cost shares, optimizes the use of available ERE funding, the level of industry involvement and demonstrated ability to accelerate adoption of the efficiency solutions indicated here, technical, market, organizational, and environmental risks that may be associated with the project, whether it's likely to lead to increased employment in manufacturing in the United States, whether the proposed project will accelerate transformational efficiency advances in areas that industry by itself is not likely to undertake because of, for instance, technical and financial uncertainty, the degree to which the proposed project directly addresses our statutory mission and strategic goals, whether the project will enhance rather than duplicate or overlap with work already underway, and the opportunity to maximize deployment or replication based on the application of the solution or strategy. So those are some of the program policy factors that may be considered by the selection official in deciding which projects ultimately to fund. So a few registration requirements. This is a very important slide, so I hope you're paying attention. To apply for this funding opportunity, applicants must register with and submit the application materials via this program, EERE Exchange. It stands for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Exchange. There is the link. I suggest you go to that after this webinar and get yourself registered if you are not already registered. You need to obtain a control number at least 24 hours before the first submission deadline, so don't dilly-dally on this one. Although not required to submit an application, the following registrations will be needed to receive an award under this funding opportunity. So if you don't already have one, get a DUNS number. That's the website where you can get one. And then I also recommend that you, with all due haste, register at the 3 additional websites listed below, SAM.gov, FedConnect, and Grants.gov. But the first and most important there is the ERE Exchange. Concept papers, full applications, and reviews to reviewer comments must be submitted through the ERE Exchange system. There is the link and address once again. We will not review or consider applications submitted through other means. Do not email them. Do not mail them. Submit them through ERE Exchange. The user's guide is also listed here. And if you have any questions, you can always email that email address listed earlier in the presentation, and I will go over that again before we sign off. So some key submission points. Submissions can be deemed ineligible due to an incorrect entry, so give yourself some time. Again, we're strongly encouraging applicants to submit a day or 2 in advance, just to allow for full upload and make sure there's no glitches. Make sure you hit the submit button. We've had people upload everything and forget to hit submit. That would be a bummer. And for your records, print out the confirmation page at each step, and that will contain your application control number. That is something you'll want to reference. Applicants must designate a primary and backup point of contact with whom we will be communicating to conduct award negotiations if you're selected. And it's really imperative that you be responsive during award negotiations so that we can meet the negotiation deadlines. If you list someone in that application that's not responsive, that may result in the cancellation of a further award and rescission of the selection. All right, so again, here is the email address for questions, cbifoa2015@ee.doe.gov. We'd be happy to take your questions there. We will be posting all question and answers related to this funding opportunity on ERE Exchange. You must select the specific phone number in order to review the questions and answers. That was on the title page, and it's listed right up there at the top of the full funding opportunity document that you're all going to read after this. If you have any problems logging into Exchange, email EERE-Exchange support at headquarters.doe.gov. be sure to include the name of this funding opportunity and the number in the subject line. And also, any questions, as I said before, asked during this presentation will be posted on Exchange for all to see. All right. So with that, that concludes the presentation portion of this webinar. We have approximately 10 minutes left for questions. Right now, we're going to open up the full panel, which includes myself, in addition to several of our managers, our funding opportunity managers, including Andrew Ritkers and Ryan McCleary in our Golden Field office. And Evan, I will ask you, if you have the list of questions, to please begin reading those out.
Sure. Okay, and I just open up the panelists. So the first question I have is a kind of a two-part question. It says, regarding the 100 minimum buildings, can they be affordable housing complexes? And is one building in a complex considered one building, or is the whole complex one building?
Ryan, do you mind if I take that one?
Go ahead, Kristen.
Thank you. Multifamily housing, we have typically in the past considered under the commercial program, unless it is specific single-family residential units, and just by nature of the fact that multifamily has some special features. If it's a large building, like an apartment building, that tends to run more like a commercial building. So I believe we would consider that for review, and that each building would be considered a building. All right.
Okay. The next question is, are new energy savings technologies that have been applied successfully to other building types eligible for consideration under this funding opportunity?
It's ultimately the decision of the applicant as to whether, after reading the FOA, they think that they'd be able to integrate some of the tools and resources listed here into a successful proposal.
Okay, the next question is, what about multifamily? Does that qualify as non-residential, or are you counting it as residential for the purposes of this FOA?
I believe I just answered a similar question to that. Why don't we go on to the next one?
Sure. Okay, let's see, the next one are, most of these are the same. Let's see. Would a technology that improves building maintenance protocols be applicable, provided it provides that such technology causes building energy efficiencies be permanently enhanced?
Yes.
Okay. Is it the requirement that the proposal should address implementing the proposed solution on at least 100 buildings, or is it sufficient to show that the proposed solution is scalable to 100 or more buildings?
We are looking for impact for 100 or more buildings.
Okay. Would retrofit projects be appropriate for this grant?
If it improves U.S. commercial buildings, it is an applicable topic area.
Okay. Is there a square foot minimum?
No.
Okay. Would you consider a group of 5 hospitals for one application?
I would encourage them to take a look at the eligibility requirements. There is certainly nothing that bars 5 hospitals from joining together in a consortia to apply for a funding opportunity.
Okay. What about applications where one of the partnership partners is a foreign company?
I would encourage you to read in very detail the section of the funding opportunity document that talks about eligible applicants. I mentioned briefly that there are some requirements about being incorporated in the United States, so I would go back and read that section very thoroughly.
Okay, will state and utility rebates and incentives be considered for cost share?
As mentioned earlier in the funding opportunity presentation, we are not looking to create a rebate or incentive program that is going to expire as soon as the federal funding expires.
Okay. What is the definition of independent research and development funds?
I'm going to turn this over to our grants management specialist, Ryan McCleary, or our contracting officer, Andrew Rickers, if there is a legal definition or a formal definition you'd like to provide.
We would like to have the interested parties submit that question via the email box.
All right. Next question, please.
Okay. Can we submit for funding use of tools from NREL, such as the Energy Data Bus?
I would encourage the questioner to take a look again at the specific topic areas of interest that were listed in the funding opportunity announcement description.
Okay. Is the applicant the individual within an organization or the organization itself? In other words, can two people from the same company submit one application each?
That's an excellent question and one we just got earlier today. Ryan, would you like to take your first stab at that?
We are requesting that only one application come from one prime applicant. There will not be multiple applications considered from a single prime applicant.
Thank you.
Okay. There are a lot of program metrics listed in the FOA. Does an application have to address all of them?
The application should endeavor to address as many as feasible within the page limits.
Okay. Next question, can you describe in more detail what you mean by the impacts of the award needing to continue past the end of the DOE funding? Does this mean policy changes must occur? There are other revenue streams generated to cover administration costs, et cetera, all the above.
I'll take my best attempt at that, and then I would also defer to Ryan and Andrew. But essentially what that means is that if we provide funding through a cooperative agreement, it would be a shame if at the end of the DOE funding period, whatever good work had been done went away. So we're hopeful that projects that receive funding under this proposal would be self-sustaining even in the absence of DOE funds after that 3-year project period is complete. Ryan, Andrew, anything you want to add to that? Okay.
Okay. Next question. Please explain more about about how to incorporate existing DOE programs. Do you mean join them, build on them, see them as examples, avoid duplication?
There were a variety of topic areas and resources that were discussed during the presentation. The applicant has the opportunity to incorporate one or more of those resources as they see fit in their existing programs or in innovative new ones that are going to help save commercial buildings energy.
Okay. Next question. Do multifamily buildings of some size constraint, for example, greater than 4 units or more than 4 stories high, fit into this FOA as commercial buildings?
I think we already addressed that one.
Okay. What are new innovative resources DOE is looking for?
That would constitute advice, and I am going to decline to answer that one.
Okay, are organizations that are formal DOE partners eligible to apply?
I'm assuming that that means Better Buildings challenge or alliance partners, and there is nothing listed in the funding opportunity announcement that would exclude those organizations from applying simply because they are voluntarily part of the DOE partnership program.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. In the FOA, it is listed that an entity is only eligible to apply for one application as a prime. I am with a local government currently funding several research projects through a dedicated fund for green building. There are 2 projects that could be a good potential fit for this grant. What are the criteria for being identified as a prime? For instance, if a nonprofit is administering the project but receiving funding through the local government, could the nonprofit leader be the prime even though 50% of the financial contribution is funding from the government entity?
Ryan, would you like to take that one?
We would request that the interested parties submit that question through the email box.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And with that, we have reached 3 p.m., so we do not have time to answer any additional questions. My apologies, but you can submit those questions to the email listed on the screen, cbifoa2015@ee.doe.gov, and we will attempt to answer it in print via eErie Exchange. Thank you very much, and good luck.